Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mukwenata@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
My name is Neto, NETO Chamani. Osiatiko, Nengezim, Umkanju, Pandle Kunjani, Moyani, Voko Tendele. Africa at Play, Asteleli Siashaya. Africa's velvet voice is in the house. Africa at Play is a place to be, where we speak all things sport and music, from the African continent to the rest of the world. We speak to your bundles of joy in sport, 12-year-olds and below, teenagers in sport. And we speak to elite athletes, administrators, coaches, and all the behind-the-scenes stakeholders of sport and music. Africa at Play, Asteleli Siashaya. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
It's 21 minutes past 9 Central Africa time, having this very interesting conversation on absent mothers. The absence of a parent can actually have a huge impact on the development of a child in any scenario. And it seems like more often we focus on the scenario of the absent father, which seems more prevalent in our societies. However, absent mothers are, part of our societies. Those who are both physically absent, but also those who are emotionally absent are part of our societies. We're still chatting to Zama Pirimbele, child and youth development practitioner, as well as Palesa, the founder of the Courageous Act Foundation, about the impact of the absent mother. Let's come back to you, Zama. As you say, you work in the child and youth development space, and you've seen the various ways in which mothers have been absent in their children's lives. But let's look at the physical absence first, because it seems like when children go to school, it is more common to, when children speak in the playgrounds, when they interact with one another, to say, yeah, I also don't have a father, I also don't have a father. So it's become a little bit commonplace, and I think we've accepted it more as a society. But the child with no mother, when parents' days come, when, certain interactions that involve parents arrive. My son just finished school last year, and I'll tell you, on most parents' evening, the majority, and I'm talking about 90% of the parents in that room, will be mothers, and very, very few fathers. And I can just imagine the impact of the child that doesn't have a physically present mother. Let's speak about that.
Yeah, that is a difficult one, Palesa. Even us as adults, that when days are tough, you run home, you run to your mom. Mom is there. If you are lucky enough to still have a mother. So it is easy to just pinpoint a child that doesn't have a female part or a mother part in their lives. It is very difficult for them because they have difficulties in interacting with other children. Socially, they tend to pull back from other children because I always believe that in the social service sector, we say the first 1,000 days of a child's life is very important. Yeah. It is where a child gets to interact with the mother on certain levels. And those interactions actually help the child throughout the childhood to the adulthood. So if there is no mother available during that time, the children feel unloved. Yeah. It is very difficult. They lose trust. Even if they come into our spaces, which are child and youth care centers, they tend to not have positive interactions with the females in the life space, and they lean more towards the masculine part because maybe the mother was not there, but the father was there. So definitely there is a person that is available for the child at that particular time, but they tend to trust less on the females in their space than the males, especially the girls. I know that more when it comes to the girls because the girls are their mother's daughters. And you find that they are overprotective of themselves. They fail to have that positive and nurturing interactions with other females. And to me, it becomes problematic, especially when they transition into adolescence, where they need to start talking about their bodies and the things that happen in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe they disconnect, and there is a lot of disconnection when they actually approach the adulthood, which to us is 18 years. So that gap between childhood and adulthood is, they usually find it difficult to transition to adulthood, because, there is a link between the childhood and the adulthood. But if the childhood was not nurtured correctly, they tend to forget a lot about themselves, about what happens to them, and what actually brought them to adulthood. So it means that a lot of therapy needs to come into play there. I think I will just leave it at that. But there is a lot that comes to play, especially emotionally and psychologically, for children who actually missed the motherly part during the childhood.
Let's unpack that a little bit, because I think it's important to do that, because you highlighted some important things there about the ramifications of that particular situation where maybe a mother is absent there and the implications of that. Let's talk a little bit about what are the causes of being absent of the mothers. At times it's voluntary, at times it's circumstantial. Sometimes mothers are absent because mothers have died. At times it's because mothers are at work, or because of that job migration that take place in many communities. Most of the time what happens is that mothers are absent because of the fact that emotionally they also don't have the skills to be there for their children. So could you help us in terms of understanding that?
There is a lot that comes to play, Benjamin, in our societies. And when we talk about physical absence, we are talking about mothers who are not there to actually support their children physically. Some of them have passed away. So there is nothing that can be done with that natural cause. So as the community, as the child and youth care workers, we need to come into play and assist to fill that gap. There are mothers also who are incarcerated. That is a whole area that still needs to be researched as to how can we assist these mothers to still have interaction with their children, so that when the reunification or reintegration happens, there is no gap between the mother and their children. And they are not working away, they are working far away from their families. So that is physical absence. And there is emotional absence, which of course that is caused by various things. GBV is one of the things that can cause emotional absence. You are busy focusing on certain aspects of your family environment, and you forget that you have children that you still need to raise. With that said, I think I don't want to miss this point, that the cause of this absenteeism in the area that I work with mostly at the moment is caused by the social ills, and especially the substance abuse, where mothers tend to fall on using substance to cope in their present lives.
Oh, all right. We need to take a break, Zama, as well as you, Bapaletswe. I know we have you back on the line. We have to go to our news break, but stay on the line with us. We want to continue unpacking this. I want to try and take a look at how these individuals with absent mothers integrate into society. What are they more likely to become as adults and maybe as parents themselves someday, which can be quite a tricky cycle to look at, but also how we can find help for those with absent mothers. It's 9:30 Central Africa time. For now, let's get our latest sports news with Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Palesa. We'll start here. So Burnley as well as Leeds United have been promoted back to the Premier League. This after both teams secured victories in the English Championship on Monday night. Now Leeds thrashed Stoke City by 6-0, while Burnley beat third-placed Sheffield United 2-1 at Turf Moor as the top two teams moved to 94 points, 8 clear, with 2 games of the league campaign remaining. So the destination of the league title will be decided in the final 2 matches, with Leeds hosting Bristol City and then finishing the season away to Plymouth Argyle, while Burnley will travel to Queen's Park Rangers and then end with a home match against Millwall United. So Sheffield United, meanwhile, are assured of a spot in the Championship playoffs, along with Sunderland as well as 2 other sides for the third as well as final spots in next season's Premier League. Meanwhile, Burnley United manager Scott Parker says the mission at the start of the year was to get promoted to top-flight football.
It means everything really. Set on a mission at the start of this year to get promoted. Early on in the season there was a lot of ups and downs, and the journey what we've gone on really and where we currently are has been nothing short of incredible really. I think fundamentally just ultimately proud of a young group and a group of players here that have committed, give everything, followed instruction, and we got to the Premier League, mate.
Right, on the continent now, the Total Energies CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt will take place from the 27th of April this coming weekend, concluding on the 18th of May as the teams vie for a spot at the 2025 FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Chile to be played in September of this year. So Africa will have 4 teams at those finals, providing the 13 qualified teams with a giant carrot ahead of the post-stage draw that is scheduled for later on this month. So Group A at the AFCON has the host nation Egypt, Zambia, Sierra Leone, South Africa as well as Tanzania. Group B comprises of Nigeria, Tunisia, Kenya as well as Morocco, while Group C will see Senegal, the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo as well as Ghana fighting out for a place in the playoffs of this competition. Of course, only 4 African nations can qualify for the World Cup in Chile in September of this year. Well, stay on the continent. Over 500 chairs at the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium were damaged over the weekend by unruly Nkana football supporters after they club drew in a 1-1 draw with town rivals Power Dynamos in a Zambian football derby. The behaviour of the Nkana fans has left a lot of Zambian people disappointed, and of course the Zambian government also deeply concerned about what happened over the weekend. Zambia's Minister of Sports Alvis Nkandu who was at the stadium and watched the match, says the government was deeply disturbed as well as disappointed with the turn of events at the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium. He said the stadium was the only infrastructure in the country capable of hosting international sporting events. Meanwhile, the Football Association of Zambia President Andrew Kamanga has also warned of harsh punishment for the offenders. And finally, the world's most decorated gymnast, Simone Biles, was named the Sportswoman of the Year, while Swedish pole vaulter Mondo Duplantis captured the men's honour at the Laureus World Sports Awards ceremony in Madrid, Spain on Monday night. Now, Biles, who won 2 gold medals and in the team, the all-round, as well as the vault competitions, as well as a silver on the floor exercise at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, will complete a triumphant comeback 3 years after withdrawing from the event at the Tokyo Olympic Games, won the Laureus Award for a 4th time. That equaled the record held by tennis great as well as US compatriot Serena Williams. In a speech yesterday in accepting her award, she said that she will continue inspiring the young generation of athletes around the world.
I want to thank Laureus so much for this incredible honor. I've been dreaming of moments like this since I was a foster kid, so I have to say thank you to my parents for adopting my sister and I, and for allowing me to turn my passion into my profession. Whenever I was younger and I started gymnastics, I always wanted to change the sport and just to progress it and inspire the younger generations. So I feel like my job has done just that with the amount of time I've spent on an Olympic and a world stage.
That concludes your sports news this hour. I'm back with more sporting updates in the second hour of On the Move. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
So the artist that I just played now went by the name A.B. Crystal. So A standing for Alfred, B for Benjamin. What's your take on people having two names? Is it because maybe you can't decide on a name?
I've heard people saying that they are named because of whatever that was happening around.
Things are also seasonal. I'm sure now a baby born in the Eastern Cape is called Nama Tarif.
You see now. Or it was a born baby when it was, what do you call these things we used to pay for men driving?
Nama Iton.
Nama Iton, listen.
Well, Nama Confident is leaving.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
Thank you so much, Musibudi. Let's move on now and get our business news from Eva Chipa.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Benjamin. Non-profit company UVU Africa says it has successfully helped scores of female entrepreneurs with the required technology and business skills to grow their businesses for success. This is many women across the world are starting and running businesses to earn a living. However, a recent entrepreneurial study indicates that female entrepreneurs, particularly in South Africa, are sadly exiting the businesses at a rapid rate. Lara Rosmarin, Head of Entrepreneur Development at UVU Accelerate, a program within UVU Africa, says women entrepreneurs face a myriad of challenges.
I think one of the reasons is cash flow constraints. You know, most startups or small businesses, or not most, many, really fail not because their ideas are bad or because the entrepreneurs are inexperienced, but sometimes they run out of cash before they become sustainable. And they're really forced to pick another path. We understand from the GEM index information and the statistics that we're receiving that women often are having to juggle family commitments and work commitments, and this often leads them.
Morocco plans to issue within the next few days an expression of interest for liquefied natural gas terminal near the eastern Mediterranean city of Nador. The Energy Minister, Leila Benali, says they will be launching a call for the expression of interest to develop the first phase of the natural gas terminal. Morocco looks to natural gas to diversify energy sources away from coal, as it also pushes ahead with its renewable energy plan, aiming to reach 52% of total installed capacity before 2030 from the 45% currently. Benali added that the terminal will be linked to industrial zones near the northwestern Atlantic cities of Kenitra and Mohammedia. The African National Congress in South Africa's parliament says it reckons that the delay on the tabling of the budget and the final adoption of the fiscal framework as well as revenue proposals were all extraordinary occurrences for the first term this year. This comes as some academics say the government of national unity is on the brink of collapse due to the deadlock in passing the budget. ANC Chief Whip in Parliament, Ndumiseni Ntuli, says there is something positive about the budget which political parties should learn from.
In essence, the substance of this budget is presenting an opportunity for our country to walk away from austerity budget and rather increase expenditure, which, as we all know, is the cornerstone for economic growth. As the ANC in Parliament, we are very optimistic and will undoubtedly hold government accountable to ensure that practical measures are taken.
U.S. stock markets again find themselves deep in the red after U.S. President Donald Trump renewed his attacks on the chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. Taking to social media, Trump referred to Powell as a major loser as he pressed the Fed chair to lower interest rates as the economy struggles to find direction since the imposition of sweeping tariffs on countries around the world. Sharon Bryce Peace reports.
A senior White House official on Friday indicated that they were studying the status of Powell as the markets now digest efforts by President Trump to exert greater control over monetary policy, the purview of the Fed, which in theory operates independently from political interference. The Fed chair has stated that he does not believe the president has the power to remove him under the law and has suggested taking a measured approach in digesting the efforts of Trump's tariff policy and its impacts on the U.S. economy. Powell suggested last week that the tariff policy could stoke inflation and slow economic growth, while major financial institutions have raised their expectations of a U.S. recession amid an escalatory trade war with China.
And lastly, India, the world's second biggest producer of crude steel, imposed a 12% temporary tariff on some steel imports, locally known as a safeguard duty, to curb a surge in cheap shipments primarily from China. A flood of Chinese steel in recent years has pushed some Indian mills to scale down operations and to also consider job cuts. And India is one of a number of the countries to have contemplated action to stem imports to protect local industry. The Ministry of Finance placed the order into effect from yesterday and said it would be effective for 200 days. The move is New Delhi's first big trade policy shift since U.S. President Donald Trump imposed a wide range of tariffs on countries this month, kicking off a bitter trade war with China. Taking a look at your financial indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 603. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 63. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 78. And in Zambia, it's 28 kwacha 38. To the BRICS countries now, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 82, Russia 81 rubles 13, India it's 85 rupees 15, China 7 yuan 29, and in South Africa it's 18 rand 72 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,490, platinum at $972 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $66.65 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I'm Eva Chipa.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
All right. Thank you so much, Eva, for giving us that update. The ladies will be back in the next hour to make sure that we have the latest news, and they'll be back around 10:30 to 10:40 Central African time. While we are an international radio station, I see we have someone from Mexico streaming us on our Facebook page. Thank you for joining us, Manuel Ventura. I say saludos from Mexico. So thank you for joining us there. Hola, hola. And thank you as well to Genizani Makina. Where are you from? Remember, it will be great if you are streaming us on those platforms to let us know where you're listening to us from. So let us know where you're listening to us from, Gani Zani. Thank you as well to Yusuf Chipozola for watching. Where are you from? Let us know right there. Remember, you can also stay in touch with us on our WhatsApp number. Want to get your voice notes there. +27, include the country code. That's an important way to get used to getting close to us. That's our South African code, country code, +27. It's +27 63406 9126. Save that number. It's our WhatsApp number, and you can voice note us and call us anytime here on Channel Africa. We're speaking about the absent mother. A little bit unconventional, but according to our guests, it's pretty much something that does happen on a a common basis because they work in this area. We're speaking to Zama Mbele, who is a child and youth development practitioner. Bapalethu Dipoko is the founder of the Courageous Act Foundation, and we're speaking about the impact of the absent mother. Remember, we want to get your thoughts on that discussion. +2763 406 9126. Let us know what you think on that. Let me come to you, Bapalethu, in this part of the conversation. You know, we've really unpacked the why it happens and the consequences it happens. As a parent myself, and I'm pretty much a new parent, I've been doing it for a few months, and what happens is that you kind of like flexing and you're just doing things in your own way. There's no real script about how to parent. There's no real system to do it. People do it differently. There's no guidebook of being the perfect parent. So especially when it comes to the emotional part of things, some of us come from environments where we ourselves were not emotionally well brought up, you know, and that's where the challenge comes in. What would you suggest? Where do we start with that emotional presence as parents, especially when we come back to the topic of the mother?
Benji, congratulations for being a new parent.
I'm not sure it's congratulations or good luck.
Both.
And good luck for that matter. I think, given the fact that you have highlighted that there is no any manual or script that we can fully depend on, it starts on the issue of being present and observations, you know. Body language has a way of giving us some clues in terms of following and getting to create that open communication in terms of establishing trust between you and the child. And one of the things as a parent myself that I got to have was me having my son with me not having my father in my life got to heal me of certain things that I never got the chance to have and interact with my father. So me allowing myself to be present to my son was a way of realizing that, oh, this is what I missed as a son. And I got to compensate on that by being with my son and interacting with him, because I never had any space or platform or any form of role modeling, you know. So open communication, being curious, trying to find out, the present support of other family members. There is a new term that we have that is social fathers and social mothers. And I think that your aunties that are around, neighbors that are around, that can be able to be supportive in terms of getting to see to it that becomes an effective and active parenting, will get to be able to help in terms of us becoming present.
Mm-hmm. Zama, your take on that, on solutions on being present mothers?
I think he just captured me. You know what? We need to bring back that it takes a village to raise a child. And with the extended family, the concept of my child is your child needs to be reintroduced. Because when a mother or a parent is missing, there is no way that you can replace that. You cannot replace that, but support can play a bigger role in these children's lives.
Let's speak about the intention of parenting. It seems like we have a societal problem where we think just because you've brought a child into this world, therefore you are a parent, and then you just sort of go with the flow. I know that, Bapalethu, you have a vision board and planning masterclass, a way to create a culture of more intentional and purposeful parenting. Tell us about that, please.
Yes, I am more drawn closer to the men and boy child programs. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting in the national structure of men's sector, and my organization is offering programs specifically for men and boy child and families. And I believe that the mothers, because they've got that very bond with their children, specifically with the boy child. So we want to encourage the mother to be actively involved in terms of the boy child, so that we are able to address the issues of GBV, the issues of having healthy relationships with the other genders, you know. So that is why we are in a position of offering that type of masterclass, and also getting going to have the ability to help mothers heal, because to be honest, one of the things that makes it difficult for us to parent, it is because we are coming from broken families.
That's so interesting. And, sometimes it's just about giving that child time, right? Just the time to be there, Zama. How important is that, working in very difficult times where people are kind of navigating work, public life, private life, and all of that? And I think kids just want you to be there and just to be present. Sometimes you just see people with their kids and they're on their TikToks and they're on their phones all the time. And that precious time of that one-to-one interpersonal connection is missed out on.
But then, Benjamin, do we talk enough about planning to have children? By the way, congratulations. Congratulations on being a parent.
Yeah, you also have to wish me good luck, Zama, because
enough about that. Because actually that prepares us for times like this. If we prepare for our children well in advance, we talk more about prevention strategies that are out there for young girls. We will actually try to minimally, obviously, avert situations like this. But if you are a parent and you have planned to have this child, definitely you will have strategies in place. How are you going to navigate that in your household? It's not about you now, it's about you and your child. So there is a lot that comes to play. And if a child comes into the family environment unplanned, obviously, we need as parents to make way to actually try to recognize that there is another person that needs our space now. You need to have that bond, to say 7 to 8, this is what I do, and I have time for my child, for homework, to take them out. They need that. They are explorers. I love to say this. Children are explorers. You cannot get in their bedroom because you are busy with your phone at a particular time. We need to be time for our children to feel needed in our spaces. All they need, they want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want their little voices, to have a space in our homes and our families.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And it's been a fantastic conversation. And let's find out where we can find you, Zama, and the work that you do. Can people go anywhere to get closer to you and maybe get some of your expertise?
Definitely, I say mothers, families, you need help in the social service sector, you need guidance. I am on 08399 18762. Those who are in Cape Town. Currently, I'm the director of SOS Children's Villages. You can just pop in anytime. If I'm available, I will avail myself for you to guide you when it comes to issues of young people, fostering, adoption. I can just point you in the right way. Thank you so much, Benjamin and Palesa.
All right, but where can we find you, and where should people go to find out more about your event? I see it's happening very soon in Mafikeng. Tell us a little bit more about where can people go to find out more about the Courageous Act Foundation Masterclass session.
Thank you so much. The direct line is 065 262 9544. 065 262 9544. Social media, it's Bapale to the Speaker and Courageous Act Foundation. Those are the places that they can easily get to have connection with me.
Mm-hmm. All right, and also remember, with that number, just include a +27 if you're listening outside of South Africa and you want to reach Bapale. We thank you both for giving us your time. Very intriguing conversation. I think there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to parenting. So I think the takeaway is that parental planning is so important. You find out more about parental planning and creating a vision board. Bapale has a session that's happening happening in Mafikeng, South Africa, and he'll tell us a little bit about that. Do check out those particular platforms. Remember, we are live streaming on our various platforms. At Channel Africa 1 is our Instagram handle, where we also live. Our Facebook is simply Channel Africa, and also we have that Facebook page. Use that handle at Channel Africa 1. It's very useful if you want to find us on our social media platforms. Hey, don't just get on there and keep quiet and watch. We love that you're there and you're watching and you're viewing, but we also want to know, where are you listening to us from? Which part of the world are you from? We want to get all those details from you, as you are our friend right here on Channel Africa. It's 9:55 Central African time. Let's go back to the music. This is Mona Lisa with Loj and SARS. That's more like it. We're getting more responses from you on our stream, our live stream on Facebook. Likosone Gentil Vasco Matrasina is listening to us from Mozambique. Hola, hola. They're from Mozambique. Thank you for joining us right here on DSTV channel 802, OpenView 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za. Remember, the SABC Plus app is another way where you can listen to us here on Channel Africa. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Go to that particular platform. It's fantastic. There's so many things there that you can actually get great content for free from the SABC. But hey, don't forget us here on Channel Africa. That's why you're there. So go to the radio station section and you can just choose Channel Africa, and you'll get the best content on the African continent. And and definitely we make sure that we keep it continental right here. You can get all our multiple language services, and you can make sure that you get the best content in Africa. Remember, you are on our multiple platforms. If you're listening to us on our social media, remember on Facebook, we've got that Channel Africa Facebook page. If you haven't joined that party, hey, go to our Channel Africa Facebook page, click like, follow there, and you can find our streams any time of the day, wherever you find yourself in the world. Well, it's time for us to move into our second hour of the show. It is 10:00 hours Central African time. We're broadcasting from Johannesburg, South Africa, with myself, Benjamin Moshatama, and Palesa. Let's move on now to our second edition of our news right here on our show.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. Looking at your top stories, the former DRC President Joseph Kabila is back in the Eastern DRC, and Harvard University files a federal lawsuit against the Trump administration. Your latest news. Greetings to our listeners. The former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila, is back in the eastern part of the DRC. Kabila was warmly received by the new administration of Goma under the M23 group and its allies, which led to the government of the DRC suspending his political party, the People's Party for Reconstruction and Democracy. The former president of the DRC had spent some time in self-exile after a fallout with the current government led by President Felix Tshisekedi. Didabatsodetse reports.
Critical decisions have to be made, and in critical times you have to make critical decisions, and these are critical times for the Congo. And as far as we are concerned, we intend to be very much involved in everything that's happening, especially in as far as peace is concerned, and to move around instead of it just being a SADC thing or East African, for it to be our own initiatives, and go each and everywhere where we believe that we can bring about positive change, positive news.
That there is rather the former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila. The African United Borders Bus Truck Association says it will embark on a 2-day national shutdown starting today. It has various grievances and is demanding the removal of Emmerson Mnangagwa as SADC chair and president of Zimbabwe. The association is seeking the intervention of the South African presidency and the Zimbabwean High Commission. Pumuzo Mokwati is the association's chairperson.
We are also calling everybody, Zimbabweans, national, to say they must not watch us when we are fighting for the freedom. Because when you fight for freedom, it's not something like for free. They must come out and fight and claim their country back. We are calling even the 80% of sex workers here in the country to say, let us come, rather than enjoying in the brothel all over the country here in South Africa, to go and claim their country and protest. No one is going to claim for their country.
Tunisian police have detained Ahmed Soa, a prominent lawyer and fierce critic of the country's president. This has raised human rights groups' concern that a crackdown on dissent is continuing. Thousands of activists took to the streets in protest yesterday, raising slogans against President Kais Saied and demanding an end to the harassment, silencing and imprisonment of critics. Soab is among the lawyers acting for opposition leaders who received lengthy prison sentences on Saturday on conspiracy charges. An associate professor at the University of Cape Town, Dr. Vinothe Naidu, says a government of national unity without the Democratic Alliance would be a dysfunction for a coalition at local government level. He also says a collapse of the GNU would come at a cost for the country. The African National Congress is under pressure in the GNU to decide whether to abandon the proposed VAT increase or reconsider the structure of the multi-party pact. An ANC delegation has concluded talks with various political parties within and outside the GNU, but no deal has been reached. Dr. Naidu says the GNU should not be allowed to collapse.
If the GNU is in peril, it is only in peril to the extent that it's configured in the way that it is now. So the idea of a GNU doesn't necessarily have to end, but its composition and membership could very well change. There's a very clear wedge between the ANC and the DA. The termination of that partnership and a reconfiguration of the GNU with the ANC and a host of smaller parties, it's much more unstable. The advantage of having the DA as a partner is that if you combine the ANC and the DA share, it is comfortably in the majority.
Lastly, Harvard University has filed a federal lawsuit against the Trump administration to stop billions of dollars it proposed cuts. The suit filed yesterday is part of a feud that escalated last week. The elite institution has rejected a list of demands that the Trump administration said were designed to curb diversity initiatives and fight anti-Semitism at the school. The BBC's David Willis reports.
Harvard's lawsuit represents the latest escalation in a battle involving some of this country's leading universities and an administration determined to root out what it sees as left-wing activism on college campuses. It follows pro-Palestinian protests at some of those colleges last year, which administration officials believe were mishandled, allowing anti-Semitism to fester. Harvard's lawsuit accuses the government of attempting to use federal funding as a means of controlling academic decision-making.
And recapping on your top stories, the former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila, is back in the eastern part of the DRC. The former president had spent time in self-exile after fallout with the current government that is led by President Felix Tshisekedi. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Central Africa time. We're in the second hour of On the Move right here on Channel Africa, coming to you live on our various platforms at www.channelafrica.co.za. That is our website. Find us as well on our audio bouquets. That's DSTV channel 802 and OpenView HD channel 628. Don't forget, we can also be found on a very inclusive app, the SABC Plus app. Find Channel Africa there under the radio section, and of course streaming live on all our social media platforms. So we're going into your cubicle. In your cubicle is the name of our feature, taking a look at what goes on in the workplace. Now tell me, what is your relationship with your LinkedIn page? And I know a lot of people have a very tricky relationship with that, in relation to their other social media platforms, because we are always on our other social media platforms, aren't we? We're always on Instagram, always on Facebook, always on WhatsApp, always on X, to keep updated to what's going on. But it seems like many people sort of abandon LinkedIn, which they've created profiles for years ago, and then they just sort of let it rot there. But apparently, your LinkedIn is your CV. Have you ever heard that saying? Well, in an era defined by digital connectivity, in this hour of the show, we're taking a look at some comprehensive tips and guides through the process of building an influential online personal brand for your work persona, which is very important on its own, because people who want you for work will definitely judge you off of your social media, and not just your LinkedIn. In fact, all your social media platforms have become integral in how the workplace, or how companies, or how industries judge you as a person and as a worker. So we'll be chatting to Sekhufalang Nagafela Bibiza, Botswana-based human resource consultant to help us unpack this and give us these tips. And then we move on to the final hour of the show. It's the Money Matters feature. And you know what? There are so many traditional ways to pay for things that we buy online and just buy in general. And with the very hard financial times, a lot of people who don't have the right credit profile can't really afford to buy a lot of things, especially on credit. But now we're looking at something that's taken the world by storm. That's buy now, pay later, or pay just now. And we're going to be unpacking that in the final hour of the show. Kathleen Moretti comes back to join us. That's the head of training at Kenya-based financial consultancy firm Centonomy. So stay with us the next 2 hours. Continue with the good conversation.
Yeah, good conversation still coming up. Thank you for joining us on DSTV channel 802, OpenView 628. Those are our traditional platforms where you can listen to us via audio bouquets, via OpenView or DSTV. Remember, we also have our website where you can stream us live. There's no reason at all where you should be saying, I don't know where to find Channel Africa. We make sure that you can find us anywhere. That's www.channelafrica.co.za. That's where you can also stream us live, and you can listen to us on multiple platforms indeed. Hey, let's get going, and looking forward to our In the Cubicle feature where we look at LinkedIn. I find LinkedIn very, 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 very useful. At times I find it very useless. It's just navigating how you build your brand around there. Some people are very, very great at it. Apparently it's fantastic for networking. We'll find out more after the break.
Zochitika ndi Madaphiri kamlondola wazochitika pena paliponse.
Aphungu a nyumba ya malamulo mu dziko la Malawi akuchita zokambirana zawo pa zinthu zosiyanasiyana pambuyo pa nyumbayi kutsegulidwa masiku apitawo, ndipo kondani Nyamasa ukali nafe pompano chiyambireni aphungu akukambirana masiku apitawo ndi zovuta ziti zomwe zachitika mu nyumba imeneyi ya malamulo.
Ndingathe kunena kuti State of National Address imene a President Dr. Lazarus Chakwera akhala kuipereka mu nyumba ya malamulo imeneyi idautsa mpungwepungwe kwambiri nyumbayi, chifukwa pofika panopa mene ndikuyankhula pano ndiye kuti munafuna kubuka ndewu mnyumbayi. Leader of the house olemekezeka Richard Kimwendo Banda kuyimirira kuyankha koma mopsa mtima zimene amayankhula phungu oyimira ku Blantyre City South East Asama Suleiman kunena kuti sona imene adapereka president pa 14 February ikuonetsa kuti palibe chilichonse cha zero chimene chidaperekedwa mu sona imeneyi, akuti imene ayichotse.
Zochitika ndi Madaphiri lolemba mpaka lachisanu pa nthawi ya 7 koloko kufikira 8 koloko madzulo pa Channel Africa.
On the Move, weekdays, 9 a.m. to midday. Only on Channel Africa. #On the Move.
Taking a look at what goes on within the workplace. This is our In the Cubicle feature. So yeah, we come into your cubicle, your office space, your work environment, your working world to unpack various conversations from there. And you know what? We cannot look at any sort of dynamic these days without including social media. Now, this is a very important question for you, right? Did your LinkedIn profile die? Are you leaving it dead? Is it gathering dust? Does it need to be dusted off after years and years and years of creating that profile, never updating it and just letting it be? Well, have you ever heard the saying, your LinkedIn is your CV? Because in the era defined by digital connectivity and the prevalence of social media, the need for professionals to establish a strong online presence has become more and more paramount. The digital landscape is dynamic and evolving, and candidates seeking career growth must navigate the digital space strategically to stand out. We're delving into the comprehensive tips to guide you through the process of building an influential online personal brand for your work, of course, to propel your career forward. We're joined on the line by Sekgofalang Nagafela Bibiza, Botswana-based human resource consultant. Thank you so much for your time, Sekgofalang. I don't know, many profiles for LinkedIn are gathering dust after they've been created years and years ago.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, let's chat about that, right? We think about our online presence when it comes to work as only that LinkedIn profile. And essentially, we've thought that just having the profile is enough. Is it?
I would say it is not. And I would have to admit, I used to be one of those people who had a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Uploaded what I uploaded and then just left it there, hoping for magic to happen until I became intentional and I started being interactive. And that is when people started knowing, oh, there's this person who exists. This is what this person does. And I did all that with all my other social media accounts. Even your ex or Twitter account, that's the same thing that I did.
Yeah.
Even changed my handle to HR consultant, and I made sure I was very intentional about talking about HR on almost an everyday basis. That is basically how the world works right now.
Let's speak about the importance of these particular profiles. I mean, social media generally was a place for entertainment, to connect with other people in the world, and just to have fun. But it seems like more and more often, businesses, industries are looking closely at your social media profiles to really understand who you are.
The basic thing is social media, as much as it started as entertainment and just connecting, the world realized that it is easier to reach out to a lot of people at once in every corner of the world through social media. So nowadays, as someone who's trying to go into any profession, as much as we have the freedom to be ourselves, we should also be mindful that you want to represent someone's company someday. So whoever you are on social media might impact how a certain company looks at you and want to associate with the person you are on social media. So sometimes we enjoy our freedom, but being mindful that a certain company might feel that you might be bad for their brand because maybe your freedom is too much and they don't want controversy and they might not want to associate with you.
Now, let's speak about the various profiles that we have. Of course, I think the general notion was that LinkedIn is for work. But we know now that it's not just LinkedIn that's for work. All our social media platforms can be scrutinized by our potential employers. How do we start this strategically? And I wanted to start with this LinkedIn profile because, as we said in the beginning, many people have just left that particular platform, to do its own thing. How do you reawaken? How do you bring your LinkedIn back to life?
I think with me, I'll give you an example from what I did. What I did was I revisited everything I had put there. Just changed the wordings, added things that I needed to add. I did a few short courses. I made sure I added them. And then I went on to, there's whereby sometimes they want you to show what your interests are. I revisited that, added more interests, and then I intentionally followed every HR professional that I felt like it's someone I could look up to. And then I started being interactive in their posts and everything they were writing. I started being interactive there. And then as an HR personnel, I also started reposting every job vacancy that I saw, just starting with those simple things. And then people now start following back. Others start asking you, are you looking for work? Are you helping hire? What do you do? That's basically how it started, because the bottom line is in social media, you cannot just come and be a spectator.
Yeah.
The moment you just want to spectate, no one will interact with you.
Okay,
when people don't interact with you, no one will know you exist.
So if you're not just a spectator, that means you have to have things to say. But that's the one thing that many people struggle with. What do you say? What do you post? What don't you post on your LinkedIn profile?
If you are someone that is struggling with knowing what to post, what you can start with is maybe reposting that other people wrote that maybe you resonate with. You can just go on to what they wrote and then you just throw in a simple comment. I've seen there was a person who was asking me how they can start that, and then I just told them, if you see someone wrote something that you feel like is powerful, you don't need to say a lot. Just tell them this is powerful, or this is great, or thank you for your insights. Just something simple.
Well, now that we've gotten, the LinkedIn profile down, we really need to start going into the purpose of our other social media platforms. And we might use our different platforms for different things. So LinkedIn, particularly for work, but like we said, these days, human resource specialists and, companies will look at your other profiles as well. In the spirit of still having fun and enjoying your profiles, how do you navigate between the entertainment value of your social media profiles as well as your professional value?
The one thing one of the companies I sometimes recruit for told me about only looking at LinkedIn was that people polish their LinkedIn, and you cannot get the true personality of someone from LinkedIn. What you can get is who they are professionally and who they want you to perceive them to be professionally. But if you want to get the essence of who people are, go to their Twitter account, go to their Facebook account, and that's where you'll see who they are. So you need to be mindful of where you want to go professionally to decide how much fun you have on social media. I'll give you an example. If you are trying to be a lawyer, if you are trying to be someone in law enforcement, you cannot be posting yourself indulging in illicit drugs on social media as someone who wants to be perceived as someone who is going to be upholding the law or who works with anything that has to do with the law. If you want to be a teacher, you cannot be seen talking about having fun with 17-year-old girls. And as a teacher, you're a custodian of those people, and the next thing, you are okay with men having affairs with little kids. So these are some of the things you need to be mindful of. Where are you going in your career? What are you going to be a custodian of? What does your profession stand for? And make sure you shy away from anything that will make people question who you would be if you were given a chance.
All right, Sekgofalang, we need to take a break. Stay with us on the line. We continue to unpack and get really good tips on the process of building an influential online personal brand to propel your career forward. Stay with us. We'll continue this conversation after the break.
Annika Longi sur Channel Africa.
Nous étions en train de savourer la chanson Démocratie.
Démocratie.
Ça veut dire quoi?
Démocratie, déjà, ça dérive de démocratie, qui est le régime dans lequel nous sommes, dans notre pays. Mais j'ai plutôt pensé que nous sommes plutôt dans une démocratie.
Pourquoi?
Où il y a une cruauté tellement... une méchanceté des dirigeants envers la population. En fait, dans cette chanson, je suis en train de blâmer tout le monde. Je blâme et les dirigeants, qui pour moi sont des démocrates.
Oh, je suis maintenant en train de comprendre. Donc, démocratie. Oh!
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
You like what we do on Channel Africa? Then follow us on our socials. Channel Africa 1 on all social pages. And get the African perspective. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
Hey, how important is your LinkedIn page? That's the platform we look at today. There's also multiple other work-related social media platforms that also do the same thing. So we're just using LinkedIn as an example of a variation of them. Of course, there's multiple of those. In an era where digital connectivity and the prevalence of social media is there, do you need to establish a good professional presence there? We speak to Sekgofalang Nagafela Bibiza, who's joining us there on the line from Botswana, a human resource consultant. So, Sekgofalang, let's talk a little bit about just that particular way of also making sure that your platform is also unique. I've noticed people on LinkedIn also share some of their professional expertise. How important is that?
It is very important for people to know what you stand for in your profession and how adept you are with everything around your profession. So this is why we see people sharing knowledge on anything they know, because sometimes you doing that on LinkedIn can get you noticed somewhere. I'll give you an example. Because of some of the things I usually share on social media, I get to receive inboxes from people. We have the seminar. Do you mind coming? Because we have seen what you've been sharing. We have this opportunity. Do you mind coming in? Because we have seen your insights on certain issues. So there are people. There are going to be opportunities that you're going to get that you didn't even know existed because someone came across something you shared that showed them how far your thought processes are. So it is very important for people to know exactly what is on your mind.
And, it's important to not dabble in too many subject matters. I see that some of the mistake that some people make, that at times they would comment on things that have nothing to do with their profession. At times that's good, of course, because you want to network with people in multiple industries. But how important that also you must stay intentional and focused in terms of how you interact with others and also the kind of content that you have there. I mean, if you are working in a space whereby you need to be neutral when it comes to politics, you don't want to be commenting on, on political issues. So that could be something that is going to be assessed against you.
I always tell people that it is okay to talk on things that have nothing to do with your profession, but ensure that you are very sure about what you're saying. Because sometimes you just want to comment because you just like being all over there, and then you end up not saying maybe the wisest things, and then people might start questioning your intelligence when it comes to now your profession. And then the other thing, like you're saying, there are certain professions whereby you need to shy away from certain things like politics because you need to be politically neutral. I'll give you an example. If you are a public servant, as much as you can have so many opinions about politics, there's a way you need to talk about it without sounding like you are aligning to a certain political party or a certain movement. Because if you do that and then administrations change, like we've seen a change in administration in Botswana, the next people will feel like, okay, this one was aligning with those people, so how do we trust that this person is going to serve our administration because the people she was aligning with are no longer in power? So it's very important to be careful because you might be sending the wrong message to people who you might need in future.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that profile picture. The profile picture, you can't take it for granted, hey?
No.
It speaks a lot about you. And I've seen people in very executive positions. They have executive profile pictures. Those in much more creative environments, it's a little bit more relaxed, isn't it?
Yes. It is very important for your profile picture to communicate who you are trying to be. It is very important that your profile picture shows how serious you take your profession. I'll give you an example. That I have pictures on social media, on my Facebook page, that can never make it to my LinkedIn page. That's just how it is. Because on Facebook, I'm more relaxed, I'm more playful, even though I'm very careful about certain things, making sure I don't say certain things, but that's a place where I'm playing around. But then on my LinkedIn, I want people to take me seriously as an HR professional. I want people to take me seriously as a trainer, as a speaker. So those are the pictures they see, the pictures that speak to what I want them to see when they look at me.
And your descriptions as well. At times people just simplify their descriptions and you don't really know what this person actually does. I've noticed on LinkedIn that description area of saying, yes, I'm a journalist, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, is so critical because that's where people can align with your brand.
Yes. LinkedIn gives us options to tell people what exactly you're good at. I'm an HR professional, but as an HR professional, it does not mean every HR professional is trained to be a trainer. I'll give you an example. But me, as someone who is trained to be a trainer, it is very important for me to specify I'm an HR professional, I am a trainer, I'm a facilitator, I'm a speaker, I'm a mental health activist, so people can understand what package you bring, because depending on where you have worked, what you have been exposed to, it doesn't mean me and you bring the same thing, even though we're the same professional. So it is very important for people to understand specifically what your package is all about.
Yeah, I like that you are a package. I'm looking at my LinkedIn and I'm like, oops, I've left out so many things, especially like a summary to highlight my personality or my work experience. I don't have a summary there. Would you suggest that I add it?
You need to add it because
Okay.
I'll give you an example. If I'm deciding if I want to go through your profile, like Sarah, go through the CVs and everything, I need a glimpse of if you are something I would be interested in. For example, if I'm looking for someone who's a journalist and has been on radio for 10 years, has done international interviews and whatnot, I need to see that in your summary bit that, okay, maybe this one is worth me going through their documents. But then if the summary is not there, because we go through a lot of people's profiles when we want to hire, it might not interest me to pursue your documents further.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in terms of, the issue of links as well to other things that you might do, how important is that as we wrap up?
Links as in?
Links like, let's say you've got a link of maybe a blog that you do, link of maybe you've got other platforms where you want people to actually go to from your LinkedIn account.
Yes, it is very important to make sure that people understand everything that you do, because one of the things I always advise people is, coming across as a diverse person is very important.
Okay.
Your employer needs to know that there are certain things you can do beyond maybe what they will be hiring you for. Because as someone like that, you seem to come across as someone who's more valuable than someone who is not diverse in anything that they do. I'll give you an example. I always make sure that people know that I'm a mental health activist despite being an HR personnel.
Okay.
Because as an HR personnel, there are mental health issues that we deal with in the workplace, whereby we need to strike a balance between workers and the employer, whereby workers are going through a lot of things and so many things need to be paid attention to. So I always make sure people, they understand that there's that part about me, and there's a page whereby I run things that have to do with the talks and everything.
All right. Thank you so much, Sekhufalang, for joining us on our conversation today. Where can people find you online? Just quickly before we go to our news.
They can find me on Twitter X, HR Consultant.
Okay.
You'll find a flag of Botswana, US, and the UK, because those are the areas I cover.
Okay.
You can find me on Facebook, Sekhufalang Nakafela Bibiza. You can find me on LinkedIn, Sekhufalang Nakafela Bibiza. That is where I'm most interactive on HR issues.
Thank you so much, Sekhufalang. This was a lovely, practical conversation. Thank you for making it accessible for us.
Thank you for having me.
That's Sekhufalang Nakafela Bibiza, a Botswana-based human resource consultant. That conversation takes us to 10:31 Central African time. Let's quickly move on and get our latest sports from Musibudi.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. Good morning once again from the sports desk. Now, Sharon Lokedi broke the Boston Marathon course record, and fellow Kenyan John Kore then joined his brother as race champion on Monday as the city celebrated the 250th anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. So Lokedi outran two-time defending champion Helen Obiri over the final mile a year after losing a sprint down Boston Street to her in one of the closest finishes in race history. Lokedi finished in a time of 2 hours, 17 minutes and 22 seconds, 19 seconds ahead of Obiri, who had hoped to become the first triple female winner of the marathon since 1999 and more than 2.5 minutes faster than a previous Boston best. Meanwhile, 6 months after winning in Chicago, Korea finished in a time of 2 hours, 4 minutes and 45 seconds, the second fastest winning time in race history, as the runners took advantage of the perfect weather condition out in Boston. On to cricket news now. Proteas woman captain Laura Wolford says preparations for the ODI tri-series against Sri Lanka as well as India have gone well and can go as the team prepares to depart for Colombo later on today, where they will face off with the two nations from next week Tuesday. So the last time the senior team was in action was back in December when they were soundly beaten by England across all three formats of the game here at home. Now speaking to SABC Sport, Wolford says she's confident that the 4-month break as well as a couple of national training camps they've had this year will stand them in good stead in the island nation.
Prep has been very good. Obviously the last time we played together as a team was in December, so I had a bit of time off, which was great to sort of reflect and recover from quite a hectic year. But since then, girls have had 2 camps. This last camp was very sort of match scenario based and sort of did the best that we can to get match scenario prep. I think the tour in itself is great preparation though. Obviously having the ODI World Cup later this year, we just need to play as much as we can. So I'm really glad that we have this tour.
Now, the next 50-over World Cup tournament will be held in India in September as well as October, and the skipper says doing well in this tri-series will be key to their preparations for that World Cup, and she also expects a few players to raise their hands for final selection later on this year.
Obviously, international cricket, it's crucial to put in some good performances and to win games. At the end of the day, this is all prep for the World Cup, so we want to be playing with that same attitude and mindset that we would want to in that tournament. And if we're able to make the final of the tri-series, it's almost the closest thing that you can get to a mini final before, or a mini knockout game before we get to the actual thing. So yeah, very important in our preparation. Obviously, I imagine we try 1 or 2 combinations. Got a couple of youngsters in the squad, have to probably see what they can do.
On to football news now. Over 500 chairs at the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium were damaged over the weekend by unruly Ghana Football Club supporters after their team drew 1-1 with town rivals Power Dynamos in the Zambian derby, and the behaviour of the fans has left the Zambian government also deeply disappointed. Zambia's Minister of Sports, Alves Ngandu, who watched the match, says government was deeply disturbed as well as disappointed with the turn of events at the stadium. So the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium was the only infrastructure in the country that is capable of hosting international sporting events. Meanwhile, Football Association of Zambia President Andrew Kamaga has warned of harsh punishments for the offenders. Burnley as well as Leeds United have been promoted back to the Premier League after both teams secured victories in the English Championship on Monday. Now, Leeds thrashed Stoke City by 6-0, while Burnley defeated third-placed Sheffield United 2-1 at the Turf Moor as the top 2 sides moved to 94 points, 8 clear of 2 games of the league campaign remaining. So the destination of the league title will be decided in the final 2 matches, with Leeds hosting Bristol City and then finishing the season away to Plymouth Argyle, while Burnley will travel to Queen's Park Rangers and then end the campaign with a home match against Millwall. Now, Sheffield United are assured of a spot in the Championship playoffs along with Sunderland as well as 2 other sides for the 3rd and final spot in next season's top flight football. Meanwhile, Burnley manager Scott Parker saying the mission at the start of the year was to get promoted.
Yeah, I mean, it means everything really. Set on a mission at the start of this year to get promoted. Early on in the season there was a lot of ups and downs, and the journey what we've gone on really and where we currently are has been nothing short of incredible really. I think fundamentally just ultimately proud of a young group and a group of players here that have committed, give everything, followed it, and yeah, we got to the Premier League.
All right, so that's a wrap from the Sports this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makure.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Call us on +27 63 406 9126 and contribute to the conversation. Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
So the artist that I just played now went by the name A.B. Crystal. So A standing for Alfred, B for Benjamin. What's your take on people having two names? Is it because maybe you can't decide on a name?
I've heard people saying that they are named because of whatever that was happening around.
These are also seasonal. I'm sure now a baby born in the Eastern Cape is called Namatarif.
You see now. Or it was a born baby when it was, what do you call these things we used to pay for men driving?
Nama Itol.
Nama Itol, listen.
Well, Nama Confident is leaving.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
Thank you, Musibudi Makura. Let's get our latest in business now with Eva Chipa.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Palesa. The South African rand firmed early this morning ahead of the release of a key economic indicator by the country's central bank. The central bank will publish its leading business cycle indicator today, providing data that includes vehicle sales, business confidence, and money supply in Africa's most industrialized nation. The risk-sensitive rand has endured bouts of volatility, hurt by political disputes between the two biggest parties in the coalition government, the African National Congress ANC and the Democratic Alliance, the DA, over a proposed increase to value-added tax on May 1st. The DA and other smaller parties have publicly rejected the proposal and filed a court case challenging the legality of the budget process, with the case expected to be heard today. Non-profit company UVU Africa says it has successfully helped scores of female entrepreneurs with the required technology and business skills to grow their businesses for success. This is many women across the world are starting and running businesses to earn a living. However, a recent entrepreneurial study indicates that female entrepreneurs, particularly in South Africa, are sadly exiting the business market at a rapid rate. Laura Rosmarin, Head of Entrepreneur Development at UVU Accelerate, a program within UVU Africa, says women entrepreneurs face a bunch of challenges.
I think one of the reasons is cash flow constraints. You know, most startups or small businesses, or not most, many, really fail not because their ideas are bad or because the entrepreneurs are inexperienced, but sometimes they run out of cash before they become sustainable. And they're really forced to pick another path. We understand from the GEM index information and the statistics that we're receiving that women often are having to juggle family commitments and work commitments, and this often leads them.
The United Nations says Asian crime syndicates behind the multi-billion-dollar cyber scam industry are expanding globally, including to South America and Africa, as raids in Southeast Asia fail to contain their activities. A report by the UN revealed criminal networks that emerged in Southeast Asia in recent years, opening sprawling compounds, housing tens of thousands of workers, many trafficked and forced to scam victims around the world, now has evolved into a sophisticated global industry. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime said the United States alone reported more than $5.6 billion in losses to cryptocurrency scams in 2023, including more than $4 billion in so-called pig butchering scams or romance scams designed to extort money from more often elderly and vulnerable people. In other news, the U.S. Department of Education says it will resume collecting federal student repayments from borrowers in default from the 5th of May after a pause of more than 5 years. In a statement, the department said the resumption will impact more than 5 million borrowers who are in default, adding that another 4 million borrowers were late in making payments. Student loan collections were paused in 2020 as a way to provide relief during economic uncertainty stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the Student Borrower Protection Center, which litigates on behalf of student borrowers, condemned the Trump administration's latest announcement, citing rising costs and the economic fallout of recent government firings. And lastly, the world's financial leaders are gathering in Washington this week for the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund spring meetings. The gatherings are taking place as the trade war between many countries and the US has weakened confidence in the global economy. The BBC's Michelle Fleury has the details.
These meetings come at a tense moment for the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, with the US considering withdrawing from both institutions, raising questions about the future of global economic leadership. The US economy started strong this year, but the IMF is expected to lower its global growth forecast, blaming the fallout from President Trump's trade war. At the same time, President Trump's pressure on the Federal Reserve is fueling market jitters, shaking confidence in the central bank's independence, which is seen as vital to the health of the US economy.
$1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 603. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 63. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shillings 78. And in Zambia, it's 28 kwacha 38. To the BRICS countries now, where $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 82. In Russia, it's 81 rubles 13. India, it's 85 rupees 15. China, 7 yuan 29. And in South Africa, it's 18 rand 72 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,490, platinum at $972 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $66.65 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I'm Yuva Chipa.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
Thank you so much, Eva Chipa, for giving us that latest business news. It is 44 minutes past 10 o'clock Central African time. We still have our Vintage Africa coming up on our show. This is where I diagnose something that's interesting on the African continent. I look at something really, that makes us who we are, whether it is in our culture and how we dress, just in terms of everything. And today I'm going to be looking at something that we have here a lot on our station. We have a lot of African music, right? And our instruments are pretty organic and interesting and very, very unique. And a lot of the times here, when we slow things down in our set list, we hear the instrument called the kora. So today we're going to be investigating what makes the kora special. Where does it come from? Who uses it, and is it still relevant in contemporary pop music? So that's what's coming up a little bit later in our Vintage Africa feature. Well, for now, let's go back to the music. This is Bossa, a beautiful one featuring C4 Pedro with Zara Williams. one, Zara Williams with C4 Pedro there. That one is titled Bossa. Well, it is 49 minutes past 10 o'clock Central African time. Coming up in our next hour, we'll have our Money Matters feature. Pali, what are we looking at today? This is an interesting one. It's something that you guys were telling me about. I didn't know anything like this actually existed, because I thought, like, you know what, there's just credit cards. That's the only thing that's available.
Well, there's more available these days if you're looking to buy things online, and sometimes you can't quite afford those items that you really want, or maybe that event you really want to go to. And we're looking at it seems like a new phenomenon, and it's really taking the online shopping world by storm. These are buy now, pay later services that have become part of a stream of various services that you can take as an alternative to credit when buying online.
Okay, that's what's coming up. But right now we're going to be looking at our Vintage Africa feature. And this is when we look at something that makes us unique as the continent, right? And let's take a bit of a break, and then we'll come back to our Vintage Africa feature. And then we'll let you know as we investigate what we call the Kora.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
An investigation by South Africa's non-profit organization Open Secrets has found that telecoms company MTN has played a role in shutting down the internet during elections and wars in Sudan, Cameroon, Iran, Afghanistan and Uganda, thus enabling governments to silence the opposition.
Interestingly, this isn't just unique to MTN. I think the report also looks at Vodacom DRC as being a proponent of one of these violations, particularly in shutting down the internet during the elections in 2018 and 2019. Autocratic regimes are able to utilize the licenses that they have with these telecom companies, basically to, suppress political dissent. And the result is that many people are left without connectivity. And not only does this affect people's ability to communicate with their loved ones and access vital emergency services, but also at a very basic level of access to information.
The Open Secrets investigator, Lu Forno Uduli.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa. Weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Central African Time. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
It's not quite a guitar. It's not quite a piano. It's almost like in between the two. That's what we're going to be looking at today for our Vintage Africa feature. That is the Kora. Have you seen the Kora visually?
No,
you have seen it.
Never.
Come on, but it's this very beautiful instrument. Actually, I'll show you a picture of it.
Okay.
Wonderful in its essence. It's meant to be organic as an instrument and how it looks, and mostly it's used by West African musical instruments. You asked me a question on our music feature 2 weeks back, and I got the answer wrong for the Kora. And I had to go back and figure out, okay, why did I get this answer wrong? And the question was, where does the Kora come from? And I said East Africa, and it's actually a West African musical instrument. It holds symbol for a group of people, especially in Western Africa. It's played by what we call griots.
Griots?
Yeah, or griots.
Okay.
Those are traditional musicians, right? And they've got a line of them. They're almost like they've got a lot of respect in their communities.
All right.
In terms of their music, the music that they write, the stories that they tell. And the stories that they tell are not simplistic. Most of them are very kind of moral dialogue. So the Kora, whoever handles a Kora, it's very, very much important to actually be a person who's noble in society and well respected. And they pass on also oral traditions and family history through their music. So kora players are very significant in their communities. What else do you want to know about the kora?
Well, it sounds like an interesting instrument, but it sounds like more than just an instrument. It's a very pivotal role in society and in those particular communities. So what takes place? I mean, how do these kora players learn the history, and is it passed on from generation to generation?
That's a good question to ask. I think it's because it's associated with a ruling class, a particular family. Some of the people who do play the kora come from royal or a religious practice, and until recently we're seeing more women play the kora, but by tradition only male musicians could actually play the kora.
So male musicians within those particular family structures.
And dynasties,
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing today for our kora feature. And it's very interesting that we don't know some of these instruments, but they still prevail. You know, Burna Boys and those kind of guys have embedded some kora lines, but of course they break them and chop them into the pop aesthetic.
Genres,
and then they just chop it up and repeat it, but it's not as prevalent as it is in traditional music.
So what kind of role is it playing in modern music? Because it has a very strong traditional significance. And do you think that modern artists who do include some of the kora are observing some of the traditional significance of the instruments?
I mean, there are a lot of griots that still maintained, like the music that we're listening to now. It's actually kids of one of the modern legends, pop stars in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, Tumani Diabete. And he's got an entire family that he's actually passed on the kora to. Sidiki Diabete is his son. Sidiki Diabete actually kind of morphs the music into a pop kind of sound.
Nice.
So it does actually happen where they keep the tradition but try to stylize it into more contemporary musical themes.
I love that. Well, I'm learning more about the kora today. Do you have any questions in our Vintage Africa theme? Today we're looking at this incredible instrument that seems like it has quite a lot of rich culture associated to it in Western Africa. At Channel Africa 1, find us there. We're also streaming live on all our platforms. And of course, to hear your voice, that's +27 63 406 9126. Let's hear this incredible music.
Investigation by South Africa's non-profit organization Open Secrets has found that telecoms company MTN has played a role in shutting down the internet during elections and wars in Sudan, Cameroon, Iran, Afghanistan and Uganda, thus enabling governments to silence the opposition.
Interestingly, this isn't just unique to MTN. I think the report also looks at Vodacom DRC as being a proponent of one of these violations, particularly in shutting down the internet during the elections in 2018 and 2019. Autocratic regimes are able to utilize the licenses that they have with these telecom companies, basically to, suppress political dissent. And the result is that many people are left without connectivity. And not only does this affect people's ability to communicate with their loved ones and access vital emergency services, but also at a very basic level of access to information.
The Open Secrets investigator, Lou Forno Nduli.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa. Weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Central African Time. keeping you on the know and on the move.
We're taking you into the third hour of On the Move in just a bit, but chip in on the conversations we've had. Did you find it intriguing, our Vintage Africa theme today on the Cora? I certainly did, and I'm learning a few things with this new feature at Channel Africa 1. We are streaming live. Find us there on Instagram, find us there on Facebook and on YouTube not 24 hours, but for now you can find us there streaming live, and definitely you get to sort of interact with us in a more personal way. You get to see what we're up to in the studio, and of course you get to comment on the conversations we are having. Let us know where you're listening to us from, as many have done so far on our live stream, both on Facebook and Instagram. Going into the final hour, let's get our latest news update once again with Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Palesa. Looking at your top stories, the former DRC President Joseph Kabila is back in the Eastern DRC, and Harvard University files a federal lawsuit against the Trump administration. Your latest news, greetings to our listeners. The former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila, is back in the eastern part of the DRC. Kabila was warmly received by the new administration of Goma under the M23 group and its allies, which led to the government of the DRC suspending its political party, the People's Party for Reconstruction and Democracy. The former president of the DRC had spent some time in self-exile after fallout with the current government led by President Felix Tshisekedi. The former president, Joseph Kabila, explains.
Critical decisions have to be made, and in critical times you have to make critical decisions, and these are critical times for the Congo. And as far as we are concerned, we intend to be very much involved in everything that's happening, especially in as far as peace is concerned, and to move around instead of it just being a SADC thing or East African, for it to be our own initiatives, and go each and everywhere where we believe that we can bring about positive change, positive news.
A two-day nationwide shutdown spearheaded by the African Unite Borders Bus Trucks Association is meant to start today in Zimbabwe. The group cites a range of unresolved concerns, chief amongst them the continued leadership of Emmerson Mnangagwa as president of Zimbabwe and the chairperson of the Southern African Development Community. The association is calling for swift intervention from the South African presidency and the Zimbabwean High Commission, saying the status quo is no longer sustainable. Association chairperson Pumuzo Mokwati says the protest is not just about logistical frustration at the borders, but also about broader political accountability.
We are also calling everybody, Zimbabweans, national, to say they must not watch us when we are fighting for the freedom, because when you fight for freedom, it's not something like for free. They must come out and fight and claim their country back. We are calling even the 80% of sex workers here in the country to say, let us come, rather than enjoying in the brothel all over the country here in South Africa, to go and claim their country and protest. No one is going to claim for their country.
An associate professor at the University of Cape Town, Dr. Vinothan Naidu, says a government of national unity without the Democratic Alliance would be as dysfunctional as coalitions at local government level. He also says a collapse of the GNU would come at a cost for the country. The African National Congress is under pressure in the GNU to decide whether to abandon the proposed VAT increase or reconsider the structure of the multi-party pact. An ANC delegation has concluded talks with various political parties within and outside the GNU, but no deal has been reached. Dr. Naidu says the GNU should not be allowed to collapse.
If the GNU is in peril, it is only in peril to the extent that it's configured in the way that it is now. So the idea of a GNU doesn't necessarily have to end, but its composition and membership could very well change. There's a very clear wedge between the ANC and the DA. The termination of that partnership and a reconfiguration of the GNU would be ANC and a host of smaller parties, it's much more unstable. The advantage of having the DA as a partner is that if you combine the ANC and the DA share, it is comfortably in the majority.
As the world marks Earth Day today, conversations are turning towards practical ways to address both environmental and social challenges. In South Africa, food waste and food insecurity continues to exist side by side, highlighting a complex problem that has environmental, economic and human costs. Uzi Nel is the Chief Operating Officer of his SA Harvest.
We need to understand that every action has a reaction. Every thing that we can do to mitigate the climate change and getting involved in our communities and stopping food waste will have a ripple effect in the future, and one must never underestimate how powerful that ripple effect can be.
Lastly, Harvard University has filed a federal lawsuit against the Trump administration to stop billions of dollars in proposed cuts. The suit filed yesterday is part of a feud that escalated last week. The elite institution has rejected a list of demands that the Trump administration said was designed to curb diversity initiatives and fight anti-Semitism at the school. The BBC's David Willis reports.
Harvard's lawsuit represents the latest escalation in a battle involving some of this country's leading universities and an administration determined to root out what it sees as left-wing activism on college campuses. It follows pro-Palestinian protests at some of those colleges last year, which administration officials believe were mishandled, allowing anti-Semitism to fester. Harvard's lawsuit accuses the government of attempting to use federal funding as a means of controlling academic decision-making.
Recapping on your top stories, the former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila, is back in the eastern part of the DRC. The former president had spent some time in self-exile after fallout with the current government led by President Felix Tshisekedi. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Minutes past 11 o'clock Central African Time. DSTV Channel 802, OpenView 628 are the more traditional ways that you can listen to us, including our website, www.channelafrica.co.za. But if you want to see us, hello out there. If you want to see us visually in our studios, you can actually find us there on our platform. Remember, you can go to our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is simply titled Channel Africa, and it is very easy to find, definitely. And let us know as soon as you get on to our live stream. It's going right now. It's been going for the past 2 hours. Let us know where you're listening to Channel Africa from. So go to our Facebook page, Channel Africa, or you can go to our Instagram handle at Channel Africa 1, and you can find us there. Don't be shy. Don't just keep quiet there. I know some of us just like observing on social media. We just like looking and watching and seeing what's going on there, and then we don't participate. Let us know where you're listening to us from. Let us know where you are listening to that live stream from. We want to hear from you. Already we've heard from Mozambique. Already we've heard from even Mexico. Hola, obrigado. And we've also heard from all sorts of people there. So let us know where you are listening to us from on that platform.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going into our Money Matters feature this Tuesday morning. Traditional credit products often exclude consumers that have very thin credit files, but the things are changing now. If you still want to buy things online, whether it's an item or even an experience, we've had this phenomenon of buy now, pay later, making huge waves around the world, and we're going to be looking at it and unpacking it with Kathleen Moretti, Head of Training at Kenya-based financial consultancy consultancy firm Centonomy, who's going to help us look at this buy now, pay later. Is it good or bad for consumers, and how exactly do you use it? So it's 11:08 Central Africa time. Join us on our live stream, but also on our listening platforms, channelafrica.co.za. That's our website. Find us on the SABC Plus app. There's loads of content there from this great place, the SABC, but find Channel Africa under the radio section. And of course, our audio bouquets, DSTV channel 802 and OpenView HD channel 628.
Absolutely. Those are different ways to listen to us right here on Channel Africa. That live stream, man, is happening. Remember, we also have it on YouTube. Our YouTube handles as well at Channel Africa 1. Hey, let us know as soon as you get on those platforms. Who are you? Where are you listening to Channel Africa from? Let's interact. Let's make the circle bigger right there. Hey, man, let's move on into our Money Matters feature. This is where we get personal about money.
África. Conhece o Ntivani? Claro que sou eu. Ntivani é o amante da música de corpo e alma. Eu amo música africana. Ele aprecia todos os tipos de melodias e passa os seus dias a ouvir a Channel Africa. Okay. Adivinha só, a Channel Africa quer ajudar o Ntivani e os amantes da música em todo o lado a descobrir ainda mais música incrível. Por isso, a Channel Africa está a convocar artistas africanos a submeterem as suas músicas. Músicos, lembrem-se de nos dar todas as informações relevantes no music@channelafrica.co.za. As submissões são a vossa oportunidade de ser ouvidos, mas não garantem inclusão na lista. Todas as submissões serão cuidadosamente analisadas para verificar se cumprem os requisitos da nossa estação. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
9 to 12 midday, Central African Time. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Mushatama.
Hey, we love our Money Matters feature. This is when we take your hand and you take ours, actually, because we all try and understand what's happening with money, and we walk together into a journey of trying to get a little bit more money savvy, try to actually also understand the psychology of money, because how we use money, it really comes back to our mental capacity. It also comes back to just how we actually have been brought up around money. But most importantly, our relationship with money is ever present. It's not going anywhere. So you can't even dismiss it. You can't say, I don't care about money, I'm not that person, because money is always going to be a factor in our lives. So that's our Money Matters feature. Today we're speaking about something very, very interesting. I actually got schooled by the girls in our show, that is Palesa and Selena, our producer. I'm like, I've never heard of that. This is what they call buy now, pay later services. Have you heard of them? Have you used them? Let us know how you've utilized them on our WhatsApp number, +27 63406 9126, or you can touch base with us on our live stream and let us know if you've used that as well. Well, traditional credit products often exclude consumers with thin credit files or those without formal banking relationships. Buy now, pay later, on the other hand, offers an entry point for individuals to access financing without the barriers imposed by legacy credit models. Well, buy now, pay later is also known as BNPL services. They're gaining more traction in Africa and offering consumers flexible payment options and increasing financial inclusion. To chat about this one, we're joined by Kathleen Mureti, who is the head of training at the Kenya-based financial consultancy firm Centonomy. Kathleen, you're becoming a friend of the show. Thank you for joining us right here on Channel Africa. We should call you the On the Mover now, because you're part of us. Yeah, you are the On the Mover.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, Kathleen, tell us a little bit about this buy now, pay later. What's your description of it?
The BNPL, the buy now, pay later services are actually very interesting because they let you split a purchase into smaller installments. So you probably want to buy this merchant or this piece of furniture, but you don't have the cash right now. So BNPL services will let you split that purchase into smaller installments, usually weekly or monthly, often with little to no interest, especially over short periods of time. And we have so many fintech applications or even financial institutions that are offering that as an off product, So if you're banking with them, or if you're a new banker and they have realized that you use that account to purchase some of this equipment, so they offer these services, and it gives you instant access to the products while you're also spreading out the payments. I would want to clarify that it's very different from having a credit card, because both of them offer deferred payments, I would say, but BNPL is usually tied to a specific purchase or a merchant, and it might come with zero interest if you repay on time.
Okay.
But for a credit card, it more or less gives you revolving credit. So there's flexibility to pay for anything within your limit, but it often comes with high interest rates, especially if not paid in full within the grace period, So BNPL feels easier, but credit cards can be more versatile if used with discipline. But BNPL is gaining more traction right now because some of the things that you want to purchase, you don't have enough money or enough liquidity for it right now. So BNPL helps you to get that satisfaction, but there's also zero interest tied to it. So you're able to spread your payments over time, and it's very cost effective, but if used correctly, and especially for short term, because of the no plans. So it's very, very, very effective for BNPL right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very convenient. It sounds very easy to use. Sounds very also something that works for a lot of customers, right?
Yes. It's very and also very seamless. So you decide that I want to purchase this thing. You go to your mobile money account. You look at it. They'll give you. So you have probably a credit limit of about 80,000 shillings, so you can be able to purchase it. But now you spread your payments within the given time. But now here's the thing: you have to cultivate a lot of discipline, because at the end of the day, if you're not able to, because it's credit, so if you're not able to take care of that, then now you worsen your credit score, and you might not be able to be supported in another time or in another event that you probably want to purchase a merchant or something. So it's you need to cultivate a lot of discipline around it.
I say it's easy because I have a sense as well that it is a trap. Whenever things are easy, I'm an optimist, but whenever things get very too easy, Kathleen, I'm like, what is the catch? What's the catch, Kathleen?
Well, so let's look at it this way. It's a lifestyle enhancer or a life enabler. So there are things that you want to have in your life that will probably make your life easier or seamless, all right? So the catch here is you need to understand the need for you to cultivate that discipline. Number two, understand that this is credit. Number three, in as much as the interests are very low, if you're indisciplined to the effect that you're not paying this, depending on the repayment period agreed, then you also worsen your own credit score. So the catch now is it's a bait. All right. So if you're someone who struggles with paying debt, if you're someone who struggles with managing their liquidity or managing their finances, it's easy for you to access the BNPL, get whatever you want to get. But now it adds onto your credit. And at the end of the day, so now you have to apply the whole snowball effect of paying down your debt. And the whole thing of debt repayment is something that's very exhausting mentally. So before you get to that point, you really need to ask yourself, do I need this thing? Or is it something that I want to get, out of impulse? So in as much as it's easy for you, you also have to consider some of these introspective questions.
And let's speak about those introspective questions, because we do live now in a world of, immediate gratification. And it seems like this exacerbates that immediate gratification. Would you say that one should think about whether or not they can afford an item or a product to begin with? Like, why buy something that you cannot afford right now, Kathleen?
So here's the thing with human nature. At times we really don't get to a point where we ask ourselves this question, and there's usually a rule that I would want us to apply when it comes to this thing. So it's the 3-30-90 test. All right.
Okay.
So in 3 months, so you ask yourself, in 3 days, So maybe right now you want to purchase a piece of furniture. So give yourself 72 hours to really think critically and clearly, do I really need this right now? So you take 72 hours, all right? If you really need that, then now the next 30 days, how will your liquidity function if I'm able to explore the BNPL? So will my cash flow be affected? Because now you have to repay every monthly or weekly, depending on the repayment plans. So will my cash flow be affected? And if my cash flow will be affected, do I have a plan B, or do I have something, a buffer that will be able to support in the process of me repaying this? And then the 90 is, in the next 3 months, do you see yourself still wanting this thing that you want to purchase? So usually people would probably want to do the PN. You're purchasing a piece of jewelry because there's an event somewhere, all right? So quickly, because of the funk, and because you want to look good on that day, you go, you access the BNPL, you purchase this jewelry. But now, after the event, now you wonder, what am I doing with this piece of jewelry? I had other pieces that I could have actually worn during that day. So when you apply the 3-30-90 test, it actually helps. So in 3 days, do I really need this? Cool. If yes, then exploit. In 30 days, how will my cash flow be affected? Once you're able to analyze that, then now you can be able to create a buffer and say, all right, so they're checking off about 20,000 shillings off my pocket every month. Do I have a buffer that could be able to support the 20,000 that's going off my pocket every month? Then in 90 days, will I really need this piece of purchase that I'm actually exploring right now? So once you're able to do that, then now it helps.
All right, Kathleen, we're going to take a break. We're speaking to our on-the-move friend. That's Kathleen Moretti. She's becoming more of a friend of our show. She always helps us with our Money Matters feature. She's the head of training at the Kenya-based financial consultancy firm Cetonomy. Well, we'll speak a little bit more about these services, BNPL, also known as Buy Now, Pay Later services, for our Money Matters feature today. Learning curve, isn't it?
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le Diamant Rouge aka Binal Export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
No time to waste. Be on the move with Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa.
So I heard of a recent study. There's this huge American annual festival called Coachella. And it seems like in 2025, over 80% of people who attended this Coachella festival used Buy Now, Pay Later services. So essentially, the majority of the people who went to this festival, and we're speaking about thousands of people, could not afford to immediately buy those tickets on cash, but they used these Buy Now, Pay Later services.
I'm sure, Pali, if Adele was coming to South Africa, you'd use Buy Now, Pay Later.
No,
Adele. Okay, I mean, I would. I love Adele.
Look, it seems like more and more often people are trying to use these services to really, find affordance of the things they either cannot afford or cannot afford right now. And sometimes it's tricky because can you afford it at all? That's the question. So we're still speaking to Kathleen Moretti about the Buy Now, Pay Later services making waves all around the world. That's the head of training at Kenya-based financial consultancy firm Cetonomy. You know your affordance level, Kathleen, right? You know that you know how much you earn, you know how much your bills are, and sometimes you use Buy Now, Pay Later services. You have your ticket in hand, but essentially you actually know you can't afford it at all. Let's speak about some of the risks of Buy Now, Pay Later services. Even though some of them don't have a lot of interest or don't have interest at all, you could essentially end up buying things that are not in your financial level at all.
Yes. That's very correct. So now here's the thing with the buy now, pay later. So it's very easy for you to get stuck in the whole bandwagon. And one of the risks is that people do not get to read the fine print. All right.
Yeah.
So now you might take on too many BNPLs at once. So it adds up and then it clogs your cash flow. All right. So that's a risk that people might not be able to see it because it's easy. So they'll tell you, oh, you can actually access up to this amount and you want that thing right now. So you don't think twice about the fine print. And then you don't look at some of the penalties, the credit reporting terms, some of these things that might actually affect your ability to borrow credit when it comes to that time when you really, really need it. And then there's also the installment options or ones rather than the need. So now you look, for example, people like the Coachella tickets, something even like a new phone. People want to buy the latest phone, clothes. So instead of you using the BNPL for something that really matters, it could be probably you want to pay school fees or you want to something that really prioritizes how you live your life. So people do not really look into that. And then now there's the thing when it comes to delays in income. So you don't look at your cash flow clearly. So at some point, you're not factoring that there could be delays, you get? So which can actually throw off the repayment plan and lead to penalties. So here's the thing that you need to do.
Yeah.
You pause, all right? So now there's the 3, 30, 90 day test that I've actually talked about.
Yeah.
But before you even get to that point, you need to pause, you need to prioritize, and then you need to plan, all right? So
Okay.
by pausing, this is what I mean. Are there any non-essential spending that I am actually incurring? So now, if that's the case, then you can actually use some of that money to purchase this thing that you want to purchase using the BNPL. All right. And then now there's the bit of prioritizing urgent obligations. All right. So if I'm able to prioritize, then now I'll realize I have paid off the essentials. Do I have extra income that I can be able to purchase or put or save? Because if it's a want, a piece of furniture could be a want. So if you save consistently for like 3 months, you'll get that piece of bed, you'll get that nice couch that you've always wanted. So once you're able to prioritize your obligation, then you can realize there's a bit of cash that I have on the side that I can use to save so that I can purchase this thing. And then now that's where the plan usually comes in. So you have a written budget that you explore and you restructure some of the current debts that you probably have. You can negotiate extended terms. And here's the thing with BNPL, you can always talk. And I usually say when we talk to the people in the financial institutions, they are there to listen to you. So if you come and say, okay, cool, you're giving me a repayment period of 6 months, but I can clearly clear this in like 8 months. Can we work with that repayment plan? They're there to listen to you and they're there to guide you. So that's the thing. So people get this and then because they have all this. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, you end up even taking more debt. Because now you haven't done the post, you haven't done the prioritizing, you haven't worked out a clear-cut plan.
All right.
You end up taking more debt, which now affects you in the long run.
We struggle a little bit with your network now. You've been very audible, though, Kathleen. But just as a final question, I think you've covered so many of these areas. Something that I think is of caution is using many more than one of these BNPL services. What's your advice there?
You can use one. You can use more. That's the thing. But it all boils down to how you've been able to structure your plan.
Okay.
I, for one, use so many of them. I take advantage of this because if you have financial security, if you know there's a bit of money that comes to your account every month, then you can be able to explore this because now it even helps you to structure your finances. So if you're able to understand how your finances are, and that's now the thing with the post prioritize and plan, if you're able to do that, then you can take more. But now you need to read the fine print, you need to ask as many questions as possible, and you need to ensure that you're not operating at a disadvantage.
Well, thank you so much. You are always awesome. Where can people find you, Kathleen? Because you give great advice.
You can find me on social media, Kathleen Morethi. If you Google me, you'll be able to find me across all social media avenues.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us here on Channel Africa.
Thank you as well.
As Kathleen Murati, head of training at Kenya-based financial consultancy firm Centonomy, seems like there are positives and negatives there, and it's all about how you plan. We were speaking about planning even when it comes to parenting. Seems like it's the theme of the show today. Have you used the buy now, pay later system, and how has it worked for you? Remember that WhatsApp number that you can contact us on is +27 63 406 9126. +27 63 406 9126. Let's take a bit of a break and then we'll come back to our latest sports update.
Ahoy, matey!
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa One. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa One. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
Hey, it is 11:30 Central African time. To wrap up the morning sports, let's find out what's happening there with Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. So the Total Energies CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations tournament is just days away, starting officially on the 27th of April, this coming Saturday, concluding on the 18th of May as teams vie for a spot at the 2025 FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Chile that gets underway in September of this year. So Africa will have only 4 teams at these finals, providing the 13 already qualified teams with a giant carrot ahead of the pool stage draw to be scheduled later on this month. So Group A at the AFCON tournament has the host nation Egypt, Zambia, Sierra Leone, South Africa as well as Tanzania, while Group B comprises of Nigeria, Tunisia, Kenya as well as Morocco. Group C has Senegal, the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo as well as Ghana. On to athletics news now. Sharon Lokedi broke the Boston Marathon course record and fellow Kenyan John Kore joined his brother as the race champion on Monday as the city celebrated the 250th anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. So Lokedi outran 2-time defending champion Helen Obiri over the final mile a year after losing a sprint down Boston Street to her in one of the closest finishes in the race history. Lokedi finished in a time of 2 hours, 17 minutes and 22 seconds. That was about 19 seconds ahead of Obiri, who had hoped to become the first female triple winner of the marathon since 1999 and more than 2.5 minutes faster than her previous Boston Marathon time. Meanwhile, 6 months after winning the Chicago Marathon, Korea then finished in a time of 2 hours, 4 minutes and 45 seconds, the second fastest winning time in race history as the runners took advantage of the perfect weather conditions out in Boston. In cricket news now, Proteas woman captain Laura Wolfart says preparations for the ODI tri-series against Sri Lanka as well as India have gone as well as they can as the team prepares to depart for Colombo tonight, where they will face off with the two nations starting next week Tuesday. The last time the senior national team was in action was in December of last year, where they were soundly beaten by England across all formats of the game here at home. Speaking to SABC Sport, Wolfart says she's confident that the 4-month break as well as a couple of national training camps they have had this year will stand them in good stead ahead of their departure to the island nation.
Prep has been very good. Obviously the last time we played together as a team was in December, so I had a bit of time off, which was great to sort of reflect and recover from quite a hectic year. But since then, girls have had 2 camps. This last camp was very sort of match scenario based and sort of did the best that we can to get match scenario prep. I think the tour in itself is great preparation, though. Obviously, having the ODI World Cup later this year, we just need to play as much as we can. So I'm really glad that we have this tour.
Now, the next 50-over World Cup will be held in India in September as well as October, and the skipper says doing well in the Tri-Series will be key to their preparations for the World Cup, and also expects a few players to raise their hands for the final selection of the World Cup later on this year.
Obviously, international cricket, it's crucial to put in some good performances and to win games. At the end of the day, this is all prep for the World Cup, so we want to be playing with that same attitude and mindset that we would want to in that tournament. And if we're able to make the final of the Tri-Series, it's almost the closest thing that you can get to a mini final before, or a mini knockout game before we get to the actual thing. So yeah, very important in our preparation. Obviously, I imagine we'd try one or two combinations. Got a couple of youngsters in the squad, have to probably see what they can do.
And finally, former Australian cricketer Michael Slater has been handed a partly suspended 4-year prison sentence after pleading guilty to domestic violence charges. However, the 55-year-old will walk free, having already served more than a year in custody after being refused bail in 2024. Slater, who played 74 test matches for Australia between 1993 as well as 2001, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of common assault, 1 of unlawful striking, 1 of assault occasionally bodily harm, burglary, as well as 2 counts of strangulation. Slater collapsed and had to be helped to his feet by prison officials after being denied bail at a Queensland court in April of 2024. He has remained in custody since then, spending just over a year behind bars. Now, Slater amassed over 5,000 runs, including 1,400s as well as 25 half-centuries during an 8-year test career with Australia. He then moved into a career as a commentator following his retirement in 2004, first with Channel 4 in the UK and then in Australia with 7 Network, who dropped him in 2021. And that concludes your morning sports news on Channel Africa. There'll be more sporting updates coming up in the next hour with Fiki Lelongwati. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibu Di Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. If you are an upcoming artist looking to showcase your music to a wider audience, or just looking to promote your music on the radio, we can help. But there are few things you can do to increase your chances of success. 1. Send your music to music@channelafrica.co.za. 2. We require the following information to help you best: your label, your ISRC code, title of the song, performer, composer, publisher, author, language, genre. These are the things we would like to compose your musical bio. 3. Listen to Channel Africa play your music on the radio. The perfect soundtrack for your day. With Channel Africa and your music, you will never be bored because we play your music. Experience the best African music on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. 9 to 12 midday, Central African Time. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin.
Here, Eva Chipa is joining us now to give us our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Benjamin. The South African rand firmed early this morning ahead of the release of a key economic indicator by the country's central bank. The central bank will publish its leading business cycle indicator today, providing data that includes vehicle sales, business confidence and money supply in Africa's most industrialized nation. The risk-sensitive rand has endured bouts of volatility, hurt by political disputes between the two biggest parties in the coalition government, the African National Congress ANC and the Democratic Alliance DA, over a proposed increase to value-added tax on the 1st of May. The DA and other smaller parties have publicly rejected the proposal and filed a court case challenging the legality of the budget process, with the case expected to be heard today. Non-profit company UVU Africa says it has successfully helped scores of female entrepreneurs with the required technology and business skills to grow their businesses for success. This is many women across the world are starting and running businesses to earn a living. However, a recent entrepreneurial study indicates that female entrepreneurs, particularly in South Africa, are sadly exiting the business market at a rapid rate. Lara Rosmarin, Head of Entrepreneur Development at UVU Accelerate, a program within UVU Africa, says women entrepreneurs face a myriad of challenges.
I think one of the reasons is cash flow constraints. You know, most startups or small businesses, or not most, many, really fail not because their ideas are bad or because the entrepreneurs are inexperienced, but sometimes they run out of cash before they become sustainable. And they're really forced to pick another path. We understand from the GEM index information and the statistics that we're receiving that women often are having to juggle family commitments and work commitments, and this often leads them.
The United Nations says Asian crime syndicates behind the multi-billion-dollar cyber scam industry are expanding globally, including to South America and Africa, as raids in Southeast Asia fail to contain their activities. A report by the UN revealed criminal networks that emerged in Southeast Asia in recent years, opening sprawling compounds housing tens of thousands of workers, many trafficked and forced to scam victims around the world, which has now evolved into a sophisticated global industry. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime said the United States alone reported more than $5.6 billion in losses to cryptocurrency scams in 2023, including more than $4 billion in so-called pig butchering scams or romance scams designed to extort money from often elderly and vulnerable people. The U.S. Department of Education says it will resume collecting federal student repayments from borrowers in default from the 5th of May after a pause of more than 5 years. In a statement, the department said the resumption will impact more than 5 million borrowers who are in default, adding that another 4 million borrowers were late in making payments. Student loan collections were paused in 2020 as a way to provide relief during economic uncertainty stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the Student Borrower Protection Center, which litigates on behalf of student borrowers, condemned the Trump administration's latest announcement, citing rising costs and the economic fallout of recent government firings. And lastly, the world's financial leaders are gathering in Washington this week for the World Bank and International Monetary Fund spring meetings. The gatherings are taking place as the trade war between many countries in the U.S. has weakened confidence in the global economy. The BBC's Michelle Ferry has the details.
These meetings come at a tense moment for the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, with the US considering withdrawing from both institutions, raising questions about the future of global economic leadership. The US economy started strong this year, but the IMF is expected to lower its global growth forecast, blaming the fallout from President Trump's trade war. At the same time, President Trump's pressure on the Federal Reserve is fueling market jitters, shaking confidence in the central bank's independence, which is seen as vital to the health of the US economy.
$1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 603. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 63. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shillings 78. And in Zambia, it's 28 kwacha 38. To the BRICS countries now, where $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 82. Russia, 81 rubles 13. India, it's 85 rupees 15. China, 7 yuan 29. And in South Africa, it's 18 rand 72 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,490, platinum at $972 per ounce, while Brent crude oil stands at $66.65 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2 711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, good morning. I'm Eva Chipa.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. 9 to 12 midday, Central African Time. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Mushatama.
I Am Bama featuring Kabo Mu. Mind the Heart is the name of that one. It's 11:47 Central Africa time. Let's take a break.
Have you been struggling to find Channel Africa?
Oh yes. Where can I find you guys?
Well, you are in luck.
Warning, radioactive zone detected.
Listen to the African perspective on our brand new SABC Plus app. Download the fresh and easy to use app from sabcplus.com or the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Or just command your phone to find SABC Plus on your phone and check out all this good stuff. And that's where you will find Channel Africa, the African perspective. Oh yes, this is fresh and easy.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et votre 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa on the move.
Hey, I love this guy. Very wonderful guitarist and beautiful singer. Definitely in the line of the griots that we were speaking about earlier on. That's Ali Farka Toure. In fact, this weekend I was listening to a wonderful album that he's done many years ago titled Voyager, and it's got the beautiful voice of Omo Sangare in that one. That one is titled Toure Sukura. It takes us to 54 minutes past 11 o'clock Central African time. Lulu Gabu is with us, back from a nice holiday. I wish I was her, but she's back with us to let us know what's happening on the Africa Update. Hey, Lulu.
Hello. Happy Tuesday. It is
Happy
Tuesday, right?
Lulu. It is.
Yes. Are you sure? It's not
I'm
Monday.
trying to. No, it's Tuesday. All right, coming up today on Africa Update, some of the major stories we're going to be focusing on. Ugandan lawyers slam a proposed martial law allowing military trials for civilians. So if they're going to use the same structures and laws that they use within the military for civilians, how's that going to work?
Ooh, okay.
The human rights element comes into play there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Zimbabweans participate in a second national stay away. This is becoming a thing. It's becoming a thing now because the last time we spoke about it with our correspondent, there was a talk. They were not sure whether it was going to happen. But the fact that this is now the second one, we're going to see exactly how this unfolds and what it means for President Mnangagwa and his government.
Okay.
All these and more coming up on Africa Update.
Fantastic. We're looking forward to that. If you want to know what is happening on time, exactly at that particular minute, we've got correspondents in different parts of the African continent. There's a big investment in that particular news team. We've got also a whole lot of journalists right here on our floor, making sure that you get updated and accurate news of what's happening in Africa. You know what happens sometimes? They tell us who we are and they tell us our narrative, not here on Channel Africa. We are the ones speaking about what's happening on our own African continent. So stay tuned and find out what's happening in the various parts of the continent with our news team. And of course, leading that team is Lulu Gabu, who will give you all of those details. But we wrap up with some music. Of course, that's what we do on every show. This is Bayani with one titled Goddess.
Have a great day, Africa.
God bless.